Why stupid people are happier than smart ones. And before you click off thinking this is going to be a smug fest about how hard it is to be intelligent, it is the opposite. This is Schopenhauer making the case that the people you've been quietly pitying for, not thinking deeply enough are, by almost every measurable standard of daily emotional experience, doing significantly better than you. And the thinking you're so proud of, the awareness, the analysis, the inability to just enjoy something without immediately understanding why you're enjoying it, that's not an advantage. That's the tax. That's what you're paying for the privilege of seeing clearly, and Schopenhauer wants you to know the price is steep and the receipt is non-refundable. He said it in the 1800s. Every person who has spent 3 hours reading about a problem instead of just living their life has been proving him right ever since. Start with the core argument because it is blunter than most philosophers allow themselves to be, and that's exactly why it lands. Schopenhauer believed that consciousness itself is the source of suffering, not bad circumstances, not bad luck. Consciousness, the capacity to be aware of your situation, to reflect on it, to project it forward into the future and backward into the past, is what makes life painful. An animal that's cold is just cold. A human that's cold is cold, and thinking about how long they'll be cold, and whether this represents a pattern and what it says about their choices, and whether they deserve to be cold, and what cold even means in the broader context of a universe that is indifferent to their temperature. We do this with everything, all the time, constantly. The less sophisticated the inner life, the less this happens. The person who doesn't examine their existence isn't avoiding suffering through denial. They're structurally protected from a whole category of it that simply does not load in their operating system. The examined life, which Socrates told you was the only life worth living, is also, and nobody puts this on a motivational poster, the life most likely to find itself at 2 a.m., cataloging everything that's wrong with it in forensic detail. Here is the 2026 version, and it is going to sting because you already know it's true. Someone you know, maybe a cousin, maybe a former classmate, maybe someone you went to school with, who you privately considered less than, is genuinely, visibly, almost aggressively content. They are not reading about geopolitics. They are not catastrophizing about the state of the world at dinner. They are not questioning whether their career has meaning, or whether their relationships have depth, or whether the way they spend their time reflects their actual values. They are watching reality TV with complete sincerity and laughing at it and going to sleep at 10 and waking up fine. And you are lying awake at 1 in the morning, having read 4 long-form articles about things you cannot personally affect, feeling a low-grade grief about the state of everything, wondering whether you're doing enough with your one brief life, doom-scrolling as a form of self-punishment that you're aware is self-punishment but cannot seem to stop. Schopenhauer's point is not that the first person is smarter, it's that the first person is happier. Those are not the same thing. We have been raised to act like they are the same thing. Like the highest form of intelligence is the key to the highest form of flourishing. And Schopenhauer is standing in the corner of the room saying, actually, the data does not support this conclusion, and you should probably sit down. His exact line, and it is one of the most quoted and least actually examined things he ever wrote, is that a man can have in himself whatever he has in himself, and the more a man has in himself, the less he will want from other people. Which sounds like a compliment to inner richness until you read the surrounding context and realize he's also saying the rich inner life is its own burden. The person who has a lot going on internally is trapped alone with it in a way that a simpler interior does not produce. You cannot outsource the complexity. You cannot explain it fully to anyone who doesn't already have it. You are, in a very real sense, locked in with your own awareness, and awareness is not always pleasant company. The TikTok brain and Schopenhauer would have had thoughts about TikTok that would have been extremely funny and also correct. Is not a failure state. It is a successful adaptation to a world that is genuinely overwhelming to perceive clearly. The scroll is not stupidity. It is a coping mechanism for consciousness that works extremely well in the short term and produces no secondary suffering. You watch the video. You feel the dopamine. You watch the next video. There is no meta layer. There is no part of the experience that loops back and evaluates the experience. It just is, and then it's over. And that is, neurologically, closer to happiness than anything a philosophy degree has ever produced. Here is where Schopenhauer gets subtle, and most people miss it. He was not arguing that you should become less intelligent. He was not writing a prescription for willful ignorance. He was making a descriptive argument, not a prescriptive one. This is how things are, not necessarily how you should engineer your life in response. Because the awareness cannot be uninstalled. You cannot read enough to reach the end of it and come out the other side into comfortable simplicity. The bell, once rung, does not unring. What he was actually arguing for, the practical conclusion underneath the pessimism, is a particular kind of acceptance. The intelligent person suffers more acutely because they see more clearly. That clarity is not going anywhere. The only available move, then, is to stop treating the suffering as a malfunction, to understand that a certain amount of existential weight is load-bearing. It's the cost of the thing you are, and the thing you are has genuine value, even when the value is hard to feel at midnight, when the doom scroll has ended and the thoughts have started. The happy, ignorant person is not the goal. The goal, the Schopenhauer goal, buried under all the pessimism like a note left under a rock, is to find a relationship with your own awareness that doesn't destroy you, to stop fighting the consciousness, to build a life calibrated for the kind of mind you actually have, rather than the kind the world keeps insisting you should want to have. The person watching reality TV is fine. They're going to be fine. You're probably going to be fine too, just differently, and with more homework, and at slightly irregular hours. Schopenhauer made peace with it eventually. He had his poodle and his restaurant, and his 30 years of eating the same meal at the same table. He stopped wanting the kind of happiness that wasn't available to him, and got interested in the kind that was. That is, quietly, the whole solution. It just doesn't fit on a poster. So, is there something you wish you could unknow? Something you were genuinely happier before you understood? And do you actually want the ignorance back, or do you just want the suffering to feel more worth it? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more 19th century pessimists making you feel simultaneously worse and better about your own brain, like this video, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.